Hey everyone, it's Tim Vines from DataSeer, and today I want to walk you through what it's like to use DataSeer's Snapshot product on Editorial Manager. Now, the idea here is that it's actually really hard for editorial offices to work out whether or not authors have complied with their open data policy. For example, did they generate any shareable data? Is there ethical restrictions on them sharing data, and are they actually claiming ethical restrictions? So it's time consuming and it's difficult for editorial office staff to work out whether or not authors have complied with this policy. And time is one thing that editorial offices currently do not have. So we're here to help you navigate through all these complexities with our tools. So let's dive right in. We are here looking at the main menu. These are new submissions that have arrived. Immediately there is the manuscript analysis services. If you've subscribed to multiple services, that'll be listed here, but here's just DataSeer. There is a link here to go to the report, which we'll click in a moment. And I want to draw your attention to this initial score. It could say past checks, in which case the authors have, by Snapshot's judgment, done enough to pass the editorial office checks. In this case, we need to ask the authors to upload their data onto an appropriate community mandated repository. So let's click on the link and see where we end up. So this is the Snapshot report itself. There's some metadata about the manuscript up at the top. It also says action required, echoing what it said in that pop-up window before. Why do we think that? And now the rest of this page is essentially bringing together all the information pertinent to that decision to help the editorial office staff understand why Snapshot thinks that more action is needed from the authors. So first thing, the data availability statement. So here is the one data availability statement extracted from the manuscript, and here is the one that the authors entered into Editorial Manager. Mercifully, they are the same. And so we don't need to worry about them having put in two different things. Snapshot can navigate that, and you can set which is the primary and which is the secondary data availability statement within the system. Here we can see that they claim that the data are available within the article itself and within the supplemental material. So fortunately, we've actually generated a summary of the supplemental material. There is an image file, there are 4 Word documents that contain various tables, and it says that these tables really just contain additional experimental details and not raw data. So that's key. So the authors say they've put their data in the supplemental material, but there is actually no evidence of raw data being in the supplemental material. And helpfully, there's this little extra piece of information that there is no personal identifying information or interview transcripts present within these files. So authors very rarely put their raw data with all the personal identifying information into the supplemental files. And of course, you as the editorial office have to catch that before the article gets published. Otherwise, there could be trouble. So why do we think there's action required? So here is the summary written by the LLM saying, well, we think the action is required because they have generated DNA sequence, gene expression, and proteomics data sets. And these data types require community mandated repositories like Geo or Bioproject. And so the authors need to put these data sets into a public repository. It's not just the journal policy, but it's actually a community expectation around these kinds of data that they should go in a public repository. And if there are ethical exemptions in this case, then the authors should specify how others, even if they don't make them publicly available, how others can access these data sets. And then the final action required is to ask the authors to upload the data to the appropriate community repository, which is also on that pop-up window. This section down here has the links, any links that would be present in the data availability statement so that you can navigate directly to data sets that are online. And also there's an indication of whether or not these links work. Okay, and so I threw in at the beginning that DataSeer is not just capturing the data sharing behaviors of the authors, it is comparing those behaviors to the expectations of the journal. So what I want to jump to now is the same article, but the report under a much more lenient open data policy. And in this case, it is simply fine for the authors to say the data available in the article itself and in the supplemental material, and that passes the checks. And so there is no action required here. It still has the supplemental information summarized so that you can check that. Of course, the draft email to authors is blank, so you don't need to do anything. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. Please get in touch, tim@dataseer.ai, if you have any questions, or contact me on LinkedIn. Happy to talk about this some more. So thanks and have a great day.